Kia ora and welcome to A Yarn Live. I'm your host, Ryan Ashton, and today we have one of the most amazing stories in tech for about 300 different reasons. We're going to go through them one by one, not quite 300, but we have a special guest who I'll ask to introduce herself in a moment, Lian Passmore. And Lian was the first and only Kiwi into the Built with Claude Opus 4.7 Global Hackathon with 500 other global entrants. So not only has she represented New Zealand, but she has also represented Women in Tech and Pacifica in Tech, which are the two groups that those of us in tech know are underrepresented. We won't go into the reasons about that, but they have been represented here on a global stage. So it's an amazing story, and it just gives you an inkling of what we're about to get into. So first of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for being here, Lian. And could you please introduce yourself so that people have got a bit of context of who you are, your background, because it then leads on to this amazing tech story that we're going to divulge.
Yes, sure. Thank you for having me, Ryan. And now you're going to feel awkward because I'm going to tell you did say my name wrong. It is Lian. Yes, no, it's so hard. Lian, but that's good because it's going to make anyone who listens remember. So nice. So I'm Lian Passmore, and I'm based up in Whangarei. My dad came to Aotearoa when he was 17 from Samoa, and my mum's family has been here for a few generations, mostly from Scotland and England. But I am a wife and a mother of 5, and I spent 14 years in the corporate life working in energy distribution and transmission across various roles, ending in wellbeing, organizational wellbeing for a period of time, and mental health. And now I call myself an ex-corporate girly. I don't know if I fit into the girly category anymore, but that's fine. But it's it's not just work. I am a massive rugby enthusiast. Front row specialist is what I wrote on my list. I played prop for most of my life. Well, number 8, then prop, and then I lost weight, and then I was a hooker for a while. But I'm back to prop status post triplets, which is fine. And I don't actually have time for rugby right now, but it is a goal of mine to get back into it. I'm an ideator, a creator, and as of this morning, a Master of Technological Futures at Academy X, assuming that I have passed, which I am very confident that I have. But I like to call myself an ethical developer. And as of the 1st of May, now I'm not a full-time student and entrepreneur.
So as of 1st of May, you're not a full-time student?
Yes, as of today. This was my very last day of my master's, so this is a good time to be here. Where
do we start? I'm so impressed that you're a prop. I'm a prop, but we'll leave the rugby discussion because everyone wants to hear about the tech discussion.
Yes.
And we heard, and this will relate to the project you built for the hackathon in terms of your well-being background, and also being a mother of 5. There's so many. My mind is bouncing a little bit fast. We'll come back to the fact that you have entered into this competition. But let's go back a step. How did you even get to tech before you become the first Kiwi in the Built with Opus 4.7 virtual hackathon? How did you cross from well-being? That was a question about well-being. How did you cross from well-being into tech?
I've always, what do they like to call it? Multi-potentialite. I've always loved lots of different things. And I've actually always been when you're sitting in a pod of people and someone's getting asked to help with the tech stuff, it was always me. I was designated. When I finished high school, actually, I did my first year of a Bachelor of Applied Information Systems, but I got pregnant. And that's when I had my first child. So I finished the first year. I didn't go back to tech. I ended up needing any job at that time. And I started working at North Power. And I was there for 14 years. And through various roles, I did end up in the digital space on the help desk. And they were like, "You're very personable. Could you actually facilitate and train?" Got into training, got into instructional design. At the time, health and safety was becoming a thing. So I thought, I'm going to train myself up to do that. Got certified in health and safety and fatigue risk management was a specialist area for me. That then led on to big interest in well-being, kind of went occupational health, well-being, and then organizational well-being, strategic well-being, psychosocial health hazards, all of that really cool stuff. All the way through to, in my personal life, struggling with my sleep my whole life, deciding to become a sleep stress recovery coach just to coach myself. And realizing that, with all this information that we have at our fingertips, actually it's the behavior change piece that everyone struggles with. So doing some advanced behavior change study, because that seemed to be the kind of the one thing across all sectors that was a bit of an issue. Anyway, come full circle, I was doing the job that I think my 25-year-old me would have thought, wow, it's your dream job, and then something it never felt like the right thing, and I always had other things I was thinking about doing. And when we had the triplets, we were forced to have to choose. One of us needed to stay home, so my husband had a couple of years off, and then at the 2-year mark, he said, I'm ready to go back. And I said, okay, well, I'll have a turn, and I'm going to study, and I'm going to do something I'm like, no pressure. I can pick anything that I want. Started looking at a whole lot of stuff. I went to Academy X actually to do the Masters of Change and Organizational Resilience. Looked really cool, was right up my alley. And a friend of mine said, I've always wanted to do the Masters of Technological Futures. And so I went and had a look, and I was like, sold. I'm in. This is the change. I knew something needed to change, but it actually felt like a full recircle back to 18-year-old me who wanted to study tech so that I could leave Aotearoa and go and, live this life and then come home and have kids at some point. But, life had other plans. And I actually worked with someone I studied with the whole time I was at North Power, and have been very close to the digital space. The digital space that's existed pre kind of AI, I don't think was for me anyway. So I think this is my era. So this is how I got into tech. Yeah.
The results prove it already. Well, congratulations. And that is great context for the story. And over the years, we have interviewed many women on their journey to show or share their story with other women who aren't in tech, who are on the verge or the fringe and thinking about it, or maybe not even on the fringe thinking about it. But like you talked about, talking about what my 18-year-old self wanted, what my 25-year-old self wanted, what I wanted, and then just fell into place, and this is what I wanted. Your story could inspire, and I believe it will, many other women, and obviously men as well. But to thinking of that, the added benefit of encouraging more women to get into tech, so we're getting a much more balanced delivery of tech for the population. Right, let's get into this hackathon.
Okay.
So tell us from the start. You saw something, you saw someone post some information about this hackathon. Take us from there.
Okay. Actually, I submitted my master's thesis on Tuesday, I think it was the 22nd. And I was like, I'm going to go have a look on LinkedIn, see what's happening, trying to get better at it. And I saw this post shared from Stephen, and I won't say his last name because I'll get it wrong, who's the 2 Degrees CTO, I think. Yes. And he said, yes, here is, this cool. And I was like, oh, I did a hackathon sometime, I don't even know when, in the end of last year. The Act in Space hackathon with some other teammates from Academy X, and I loved it. It was my first one ever, and it was so much fun. So I thought, I should just put my application in for this. Didn't actually know too much about it. Popped in my application, sent it to a few people, and by the time I'd sent it on, it had actually closed. Because if you wanted to be, you could have a team of 2, but you had to apply individually and both get in to then work as a team. So, it was quite interesting. And I thought, this will be cool. I'll get someone else too, and hopefully we both get in. But I didn't really understand exactly what it was. I was trying to prep for my final master's presentation today, and I'd left my presentation till I handed the thesis and thinking, I'm going to have this whole week to just spend on that. And then within, I think, 24 hours, I was approved, which at the time I was super excited. I was like, this is so cool. It started at 4 a.m. that morning. And I did not get up and join, but I got up in the morning, took the kids to school, went into the office where I'm working out of, and I was like, okay, I'll watch the replay video, find out what have I signed up for. And that's when they said we had over 20,000 applications, and only 500 were approved. This is the second time they've done it. They did one for Claude Opus 4.6 a few months ago. And I was like, whoa, this must be quite a big thing. And applications were only open for 48 hours. So I was just stoked. Oh my gosh, I'm one of the 500. And then I was like, got on the Discord channel and I'm monitoring all the intros, using the search filter, looking up New Zealand, waiting for someone else to pop up. And nobody did. And it wasn't until the second day that somebody shared a dashboard that they'd obviously created using Opus 4.7 of all the participants with their, their profiles, and you could filter it by country. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's just me. I'm the only one.
Wow.
Yeah. And I looked, Australia had 4 people. So I guess kind of maybe in ratio. But
is there any way of finding out if other people from New Zealand entered?
Because I went
to
the same thing.
Auckland, and there was like 300 people there, and I would have thought that surely someone else would have. And maybe your entry was the entry of what you built that we're going to talk about in a minute that got you your place.
Yes.
It is outstandingly cool.
I would like to know as well, but like none of my friends are as nerdy as me, and they're not applying. They're not like, oh, a hackathon. I seem to be the only one.
Well, thank goodness you did. So is the next question, what did you build? Tell us about that. Or is there another step in between that you want to share for everyone's enjoyment and context of the process?
Well, when you applied, you actually had to put your, idea in of what it says. What would you actually build? And I put a completely different idea into what I actually ended up building. So I've built, integration. I call them AI integration coaches, where I've taken somebody's IP, their voice, and created an app for them, and then it supports whatever their program is, their users through that process. So it's kind of like they're 24/7, them trained on their IP, and they can set it up however they want, but their clients or their users can.
Are we talking about, say, marketing, or are we talking about personal?
Anything. So I've built a leadership coach. And I'm partway through building a health and fitness, one for a health and fitness coach. But the next step, I've been using these as like case studies to see how it works, and getting feedback so I can kind of make it as best as I can. But after the next step of it is building a platform. And what I would like to do is be able to build a platform. People can come to me with their IP. I build their digital brain, and then they can set, we can set users up, and basically here's a way for you to scale your coaching, and actually help your users integrate their learning. And then also it's an amazing feedback tool as a coach or a person wanting to see how people are interacting with your content and how are they learning, and actually is it making a change? Is it having an impact on real life behavior? So I thought, okay, you get $500 worth of API credits from Claude for this. They give this to you. I'm just going to use this to build the next thing that I want to build. So that's what was submitted in my application. Once I got in, I actually read through all the rules and everything, and they said you can change your idea at any time. They had a couple of problem statements. One was build from what you know. So that was really looking at, that whole ikigai stuff, I reckon. What are you good at? What does the world need? All of that. And then 2 was building for the future and what's next. So what doesn't exist that could exist in the future? Could you do some kind of demo of that? and what didn't exist before Claude 4.7 that now this model has, given the capability and capacity to be able to build. So then I'm very kind of obsessed with the demographics. Professor Paul Spoonley, and talks about us becoming, is it aged dominant? There's some words that he uses. And how, by 2035, I think in New Zealand we'll have over 1 million over 65-year-olds. So I like to problem solve and ideate. I've been thinking about what products and services could I offer to the older market, because I think they're very underserved. So my brain went to, okay, if I was going to do something, what about in 2035, what does technology look like for over 65-year-olds? There's going to be 1 million of them. What are they doing? What are their problems? Where do they live? Who are they interacting with? A lot of them have grown up with the internet and technology. It's just going to be completely different to the 65-year-olds of 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So I started thinking about, my first idea was Sanctuary 65, which was to build this app. I was like, is it like the Tinder for over 65-year-olds? No, it wasn't like that. It was really about facilitating connection with others. Yeah. So I won't get into that, because I had mapped it out. I really was like, this is it. It had safety features. It had all of these things. And then I went, it's 11 o'clock on the very first night. I'm sitting at the kitchen table, with my hoodie around my ears. My husband's like, what's wrong? And I was like, this is too big. What I'm trying to build right now in 5 days, it's too broad. It's going to be diluted when I try and put this into a 3-minute demo. I'm going to lose something. And there wasn't one feature that I could demo without the others. It wasn't going to be strong. So I went, what's my biggest problem right now? Right now, what's my biggest problem? And it has been, for me, the mornings and the afternoons. Very stressful. Trying to get the kids off to daycare, trying to get the kids off to school, the older kids, living in a house. If anybody else has teenagers listening, unless you're very fortunate and they don't bicker and fight like mine do, it's just next level. So what I'd been thinking about, my actual very first idea for my master's had been thinking about this. This comes back to the behavioral change. Imagine if I had this little thing on me all the time, or maybe it's my phone, and it's listening to me and analyzing how I talk to people, and then just gently nudging and coaching me towards this better version of myself that I decide, what that is. Because it's hard to see what you can't see when it's your worldview, and it's only you listening to yourself. So and then on top of that, imagine adding in, the biofeedback from your watch and your sleep and your energy and all of these different things to then help you master behavior change. Because I'm always very curious about. So this was my very first idea, and I was so excited about it when I told my academic advisor. And then finally I realized, if it's listening to me, it's listening to everyone. There's some ethical issues here. I can't just be walking around recording all the time. So I packed it. But my advisor at the time, Sarah Codling, said, why don't you just build it, but make it just for at home? Because that's within your control. You can get consent for people within your home. And me back then was like, big, bold. No, that's not big enough. I'm not doing that. But come back to this day, what's my biggest problem right now? I realized that idea might actually be the answer. And across the masters, I had mastered conversational AI. I'd built all of these things. I'd built this relationship coach. And I thought, man, I just want to be a better parent. And I need help doing this. My husband wants to be a better parent too. We have a very full life with 5 kids, him working. He's also studying. I'm studying. I'm trying to get businesses off the ground. We can't really coach each other, and I don't think we probably should, being married. He definitely doesn't respond to my coaching. But what could we do? What's the tools that we have? So I was like, it came down to B, and I I go through big processes when I design. I didn't actually start coding until Friday because like I have to have it very clear in my head. I have to really know the problem I'm solving, what the architecture is going to look like, what the values are that are going to be, baked into this thing. And yeah, like all the way down to the name. It's a Scottish name. And I'm not going to say it right, but the full name is Beatha, Beatha. But it means to live. And I'm like, we're mostly Samoan and Scottish combined in this house. So that's why I picked that name. And that's basically what B was made for, is just to help us live better. And I obviously had to talk to my 13 and 16-year-old about this. I said, guys, like, I want to be a better parent. This is what I'm thinking of doing. I just want to be able to get some real-time feedback. I'm sick of snapping at you. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of that. What do you guys think? Would you be okay with something listening? They didn't care. They were like, oh, yeah, cool. My 13-year-old says, oh, I said, what would you want to, because what happens with B is she listens in the background during scheduled times. The idea originally was I just say, hey, Alexa, turn B on. Or I have it scheduled, and at the scheduled time it says, you've got B scheduled. Can you give consent for her to listen in? I couldn't get approved as an Amazon developer in time to create the skill as part of the hackathon. So she ended up on my phone. And so she would just listen. And then you can have a one-on-one session with her to hear the patterns she's noticing and set a goal. You talk about your what's the future vision that you want for yourself, but then you break that down into the small goals, one focus at a time. And then she monitors to see how you're doing and gives you feedback on that. And you can do that one-on-one. Yeah.
Can I jump in and ask?
Yes.
Just a bit of it, because there's been a lot of information and I'm taking it in and I'm thinking.
Yes, sorry. You don't stop me.
Yeah. Well, I'm being very good and not talking, and those that know me know how good I'm being. So, we're props, we're talkers, we're in the same boat, I get you. But just as a bit of an overview, so this is using your well-being background that you went through a whole lot of stuff, and even used the big word psychosocial. So that sounds like some pretty important stuff in terms of understanding. The aim or objective was to become a better a better parent, and you'd already built a whole range of coaching agents for different people. So this one was, so we've got B, which is sounds beautiful in terms of, it comes from a Scottish name, Beatha. Will probably not be correct, but BEA. So it also looks like the word being. And the aim is it's going to help you be a better parent by coaching you through moments that happen with kids being kids, and especially siblings arguing and fighting, and maybe you use the word snapping at them. Every parent does. So if we look at a practical example, you're in the kitchen, you're doing the dishes, and one kid says, "No, you haven't washed it properly." And the other kid says, "Oh, you haven't dried it properly." Does it jump in and say, "Hey, mum, this is how you should handle it," or does it wait till you go, "You two kids, stop mucking around, just do the bloody dishes and get your homework," and then does it come in and say, "Oh, you could do it this way"? If you could give us a little bit of a run through of how that practically works. Yeah.
Well, so there's 3 modes for B. One is listening. So she doesn't actually, when she does her pattern spotting and identifying and analysis, she doesn't talk. So she doesn't coach the family together, particularly during those moments. And there's a big learning that I have from my research around state before story. So you can't coach people in moments when they're not ready for it, right? And that's the whole point of B, is she can draw on the analysis of, it could be days. And it's been interesting because obviously I haven't had much time to test this, but I just turned it on for a couple of mornings and she was giving me some great insights. And I want to know what actions can I take now to make change and then keep me accountable to that, right? So she just listens. During that time, she is just listening, and you choose when you want to turn it on. She's not listening all the time. So I would pick the mornings and the afternoons when it's the roughest in our household. And it's not just listening, it's your whole family dynamic. I recently heard about this concept of whānau intelligence. So the week before I built B, And I was so fascinated by this because we do just approach everything as individuals most of the time. Okay, what is whānau intelligence? So I'd gone and done a bunch of reading on that. And I thought, this is what I want B to be there for, to help strengthen the family unit together, to create this shared vision so that you're all trying to work towards the same thing in your mind. Because I know that my kids don't enjoy the environment when we're constantly nagging them. And we don't enjoy nagging them. And it's just this kind of self-fulfilling cycle. So 1, she just listens. 2, then everybody has their own individual login. And what I've got running in the background, so originally I tried to hook up Microsoft Azure speech recognition. And when you went through onboarding, it would create your speech analysis. So it would automatically know who was who. But again, I got blocks you have to apply to be able to do that because some people use it in, the wrong way. That wasn't going to happen within 5 days, which was fine. So I pivoted and I created an agent. So when you log in as an individual, or as part of the family, or as a listening session, there's agents in the background that are creating summaries. So it never record. I didn't want to. I'm very big on data sovereignty. I didn't want to actually save transcripts or audio, but I did want to have context summaries based off. So I wanted the analysis done after this. Let's say B's just listened to us for the morning. In the background, I've got an agent that then creates an individual summary and it allocates it to each of the users after another agent's determined who is who. I did use Microsoft Azure for diarization. So it would say speaker 1, speaker 2, speaker 3. So it could do that. It just couldn't say, this is Lian talking. So then...
Hang on a second. You did talk about architecture earlier, and you have talked about the Tech Futures Masters. And now you're talking about using an Azure service in a Claude Hackathon. How many parts or components are there under the hood? So it's not just this B app that you talk to or listens to you and then analyzes and tells you what's going on. It sounds like there's architecture.
Yes, and this is why the planning has to come in first. And I build by frameworks. So these, and I have, as part of my research, created a tikanga lead framework with Lian Passmore on conversational AI agents, which has 10 PO. We're in just version 1.1 at the moment. We've got some peer review and some iterations to do, but I use that as one of my founding frameworks, as well as Dr. Karaitiana Tauru's Kaupapa Māori AI framework, which I just absolutely love the storytelling within that. And then I also used whānau intelligence, what I'd learned about that, and the entire body of work of my thesis, which was really looking at how can we ethically build conversational AI that has Māori and underpinned by Māori and Pacifica values to have vulnerable conversations. So I did bring with me this big body of knowledge, essentially, to help create it. In terms of the tech stack, I do all my coding in VS Code. I use Claude Code for the extension. The Claude Code extension saved me. I didn't use that. It was a very long and arduous before I could use that. And then I use Gemini of Google AI Studio, particularly in the playground Gemini, I find is good with code. And then 11 Labs is where the voice agent sits. So I did a voice clone. B doesn't use my voice though. That wouldn't have been right. But 11 Labs is where the agent sits. So that's where the personality you want to give it, as well as the knowledge base that it accesses. So all the frameworks that B uses for coaching sits in 11 Labs. I used Superbase for my data storage. So that is where all of my, you could log in using your Google account. So that created your account. This is where the context summaries were generated. This is where the whānau summaries. This is where your goals or vision, your family vision, everything was stored within this Superbase. And so how it worked was if B was just listening, then it was using the Azure diarization and text-to-speech. If B was then actually having a conversation, we were going through 11 labs, accessing Superbases as the context. We were passing the information over to the agent before it started. And the agent can see the individual context and the shared context from the family sessions, if that person was part of it. But whoever logs in, if I log in, I can't see my husband's individual conversations. I can't see my kids. And then, so I mentioned the 3 things she does. She listens. That's one mode. Then you can catch up with her as an individual, set a goal, set a vision, get her to coach you on how you're doing, because she's going to monitor and see what you're doing. She's going to tell you what she's noticing. And then the third one is a family conversation. So we could all sit down, talk to B. This goes through 11 labs again. This is where she helps you create a shared context for your family. What is the vision that you want to achieve? For us, it was, we want to have more calm evenings and afternoons. We don't want to, nobody likes how it feels right now. So all of the kids the big kids had an opportunity to talk through what they wanted, create this shared context. And then within all of our apps, we can see the whānau context, vision, and my individual vision, and my goal right now. And if there was a whānau goal, that would be in there as well. But in the background, there's 10 guardians, which are the AI agents.
Quick question.
Yes.
Well, 2 quick questions. How much does it cost? And can I be using it by next weekend?
Well, the biggest cost at the moment with the voice first.
Oh, I mean, as for me to use the user, not your cost per se, but we can cover that as well.
I have not even thought about that. So I went from, I submitted my demo. I was working up until 12 o'clock when demos had to be submitted on Monday. And then after that, family stuff. And then I was meant to do my presentation, obviously, for my thing I did today. My eyes, I was running on 2 hours of sleep. So my eyes just wouldn't even allow me to look at a laptop.
As a parent of triplets and 5 kids, you would be pretty used to 2 hours sleep.
I honestly thought to myself at one point, man, I'm so lucky that I'm conditioned for this. Because I don't think I could have made it through. But I felt like I'd been on a bender for 3 days. On Monday and Tuesday, I swear, I was like, I feel like I have been away for a big weekend. But
I can imagine. So, hey, we just looking at time. We've got about 7 to 5 minutes left, and just wanted to sort of come back to the competition. So you entered this.
Yes.
You know who's won yet? Have you won? Has someone else won? Yes.
I did not win, but I did make a note of who did. So there were, and like not everyone got their submissions on time. And if your submission went in after the deadline, they still encouraged people to get them in, but it was obviously put something on.
Collecting some amazing, maybe it's not, maybe collecting some amazing IP is not the right way to say it, but they're also sharing and exposing some amazing ideas. Will then be a catalyst for more people and propagate this out, because you're the dream story from non to developing and architecting one amazing technology. And I think that everybody, whether they're parents or not parents, but we're children and family, obviously we're all children and family for a living, have experienced the problem you're trying to solve. And I do remember my mum saying one time, there's no books on parenting. And I look back at that now and think, well, actually there's like 3. And I think one of them was you stick the baby in the pram outside for 3 hours. So it's not really parenting. It's not taking care of the emotional well-being of the person to sort out a situation so that there's no arguing, bickering, and that people can get on. I think you're going to change the trajectory of humankind. There's a big call.
Oh, wow. Well, I would love to just start with my own family. That would make my decade.
So how long have the family been using it? You mentioned a couple of examples, but has the family been using it long enough to see some impact, to see, or maybe it's not actually come to fruition, but you've talked about it with B as a family and gone, that was pretty helpful. Like, is there any feedback from the family?
It's definitely too early to say, because I think, well, we haven't actually used it that much since the demo stopped. There's been no opportunity, and also I had to save my credits for the judges. So, there's credits on 11 Labs, there's credits on some of the other components. So it was like, stop, tools down, nobody's allowed to touch this. I had to put 5 minutes. If people went and demoed it, there was like 5-minute caps for everyone, because, man, it's like the old days when you only had a certain amount of credit on your phone. That's what it's like in conversational AI at the moment. Yeah.
So, talking about the costs, and not the cost to buy this product, but the cost to run the product, what's a sort of a round figure or some way of framing it up?
I think
I'm saying 1 million tokens. Is it $5 or $50?
It really depends on how long a conversation is, but also when you create an agent, you choose which LLM is going to power the agent, and that LLM you choose really depends on, it changes how it behaves and acts, and whether or not it can feel authentic, and even the tone of voice and the speed, everything, and whether or not it actually follows your personality system prompt that you've given it. The cheaper one you pick, the less likely it's going to do what you need it to. And so, for instance, with Claude, at the moment, Sonnet 4.6 or 4.7 is my favorite to power behavioral kind of agents. That's the best one that I've found. It's something like 50 cents a minute. And that includes that's the discussion and the response, right? Whereas Gemini Flash might be like 0.2 cents per minute. And I had this, I actually learned this during my research when I did a pilot with Ray, the relationship coach. I started with Claude Haiku 4.5, which is even less than the other one, but I was trying to save myself some credits. That's like 22 cents a minute. And I had to pivot on the first day. 100,000 of my 500,000 credits that I had allocated were gone. So I had to choose a lesser one, and I went with Gemini 2.5. And I was getting feedback after every single conversation, and there was a score that people were giving about how they felt about the conversation, and it dropped from 4.8 to 3.1 just from the difference of LLM. So the cost, you get what you pay for, which also means that there is this equity paradox where, like right now, for me to build and then be on charging all of these costs, it's a barrier for people that would actually want to use it. They might not be able to use it, but also, like, if I can't afford to power Claude Sonnet 4.7, I actually can't even offer this as an option, like it basically just, it's a big,
So that's one of the tricks that all technologists have to work out. How do we deliver the right experience at a price that's affordable for the target market? Something that I'd love to talk to you more about. I am just cognizant of time. We just got the, actually on 1 minute to go, essentially, because we've gone over time. But that's fine. I think what I'm going to say is that we need to come back to this discussion. We've just started scratching the tip of the iceberg. But I wanted to, I will for time need to close out and summarize. So I'm just going to keep it real high level. You have come from a background that's not technology. You found your way into technology. You've sat your tech masters, and as part of that journey has led you to entering and being only Kiwi in the Claude Built with Opus 4.7 Hackathon, and put together this most amazing tool that I think is going to change family dynamics and people, I think change the way that humans live. And the trick that you now have ahead of you is working out how to productionize it so it's consumable at a price point for everybody. I do want to add that along with being the only Kiwi, you are also a woman in tech and a Pacific woman in tech, which adds two additional dynamics, which I think is really cool for encouraging Pacifica and women into tech, two populations that are underrepresented, and you are living proof, and this product is living proof of what can be achieved. So I want to say full kudos to you. This is freaking amazing, and I'm so pleased that I've been privileged to have this conversation and hear a little bit about this journey so far. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
We'll book you in again soon. Thank you so much for your time. And let me get it right, because it's like Ryan the Lion, but it's Lian.
Yes, perfect.
Good way to end. And yeah, I know we're actually saying ka kite anō, but we also have to come back to the prop discussion.
Yes.
And I've got a couple of ideas for you already. So thank you once again. Ka kite anō, whawhatai. We'll see you again soon.
See you later.